we're going to have a series of presenters here with us, and we're going to try to keep our workshop as much as possible to be something organic and a lot of activities, okay? So we're not going to be up here speaking to you. The idea is to get everybody involved by working with the material, what these different types of activities in terms of learning about governance, in terms of living about the 7 steps of nation building.
It's important now that we start working to get to the future. Everyone around here, I see a lot of young people, you're future leaders. It's hard to say, you guys will be leading us in the future. I'll probably be leading right alongside with you guys because we're all about the same age. But the people that are there right now, one day will have to step down and we have to take the relief and move forward. And there's a lot of work to do. And we have to be strong and we have to work together, holding hands. So I'd like to congratulate everybody here today for being here and taking part. And I'm sure this is going to be very beneficial to our nation. Have a good morning.
I know you have already heard this so many times, that you're the future leaders. But I don't look at you as future leaders. I see you as leaders now, which is an important component to nation building. It is our responsibility as leaders to make sure that we leave a foundation. And what I like to refer to is a foundation of hope. Whenever you really believe in something, you have to have the faith and say, we got to make it happen. Just do it. And that refers to lawmaking as a nation. If we wait for governments to say, all right, we're going to allow the Mi'kmaq to make laws, we'll wait forever. That's why it was important to make sure that we expose you to every opportunity. But it all starts here. You got to believe first in here. We have to strengthen our Mi'kmaq nation. We have to get together because we're a lot stronger with one voice than we are individually. This is why it's very important to see now the youth of the 3 communities here gathered here in a think tank. And this is what nation building is all about. Well, all yuk. Thank you very much.
What's important is to see the youth gathered for the first time. I believe it's a youth forum that the 3 communities, the nation, is having. And it's all about you, what you can do to change our nation. We try to do what we believe is best for our communities with the education that we have. And I hope that you guys will make a difference for the Mi'kmaq nation. So I wish you all a very good day, and just take the time to get to know each other before you leave here. Thank you.
I want to thank the Chief's opening comments because I thought a lot of those ideas that they expressed were about inherent rights. And I also encourage the idea of working together, getting together, because if you're the future of governance, then build your networks now. When we talk about creating a movement for change, and I look at the 4 or 5 stories that I'm going to share with you, there are 4 common things that I'm noticing, that I'm seeing. And the first is that First Nations are taking back responsibility for their own governance, their own lawmaking, their own decision-making. And it's just like Chief McCallick said, we're not waiting around for the federal government to say, okay, go ahead and make a law. Communities are saying, no, we're going to make a law. It's going to be our law. It's going to include those things that we see as important. The other thing that's happening in communities is that they come together as a community to make collective decisions. It isn't just one person or one group going off doing their own thing. It's about communities coming together and saying, okay, let's talk about it. I know we might have different viewpoints, but let's get together and talk about what we want to do in governance. How do we want to get youth involved? How do we want to make sure our elders are heard in governance? How do we want to have decision-making that's clear to all of us. Those are the kinds of things that require us all to come together. And another thing that's happening is communities are defining for themselves their rights. It used to be in the old days, we were drilled into the notion of saying you got to go to court and get a judge to say these are your rights. Or you got to sit down and negotiate with the federal provincial government and then reach an agreement on what your rights are. Now there's a third option. And that third option is we're just going to say these are what our elders have taught us about our rights. To hunt, to fish, to gather berries, to benefit from the land. And that's what we're going to go with. Another aspect is that communities take steps to create change without waiting for permission. They're just doing it. One of the first examples is an interesting on Miapukek, Newfoundland. Miapukek, of course. That community has really taken enormous steps over the last few years. Miapukek is an example of what it means to take that extra step beyond the Indian Act and say, we're going to write our own laws for ourselves. I think another good example, Six Nations. I found it a very interesting way to talk about the evolution of our governance, moving beyond the Indian Act, moving into our traditional decision making. And it's something that they took back for themselves. That was just the nub of it. You know, they resumed it for themselves. So I think that is another example of what we say when we talk about inherent rights. Those are, I think, examples of what we mean when we talk about inherent rights. It's about people saying, we're going to take back responsibility for ourselves. We're not going to wait around and ask for permission. We're going to simply just do it. And I think that that's the heart of the inherent rights strategy. But in the end, it's about you. It's about your values, your culture, your ideas. They are the content for what will come forward.
So, in terms of movements for change and the 7 steps for rebuilding your nation, you're ripe for that here. Establishing a vision for the future, that's where it starts, that's where it ends. That's the discussion you need to have. The next one is, to plan your journey. How are you going to get there? And it sounds simple that we're putting a plan together and we're going to do that, but half of that is recognizing where you are in that map in planning your journey. And then by far the more difficult thing is exercising your rights, living your culture, feeling at ease, with what your culture has bestowed upon you. And I think for very many of you here, that's why you're here, because you already feel that need. Getting out of the Indian Act regime, that is the single biggest barrier, is the psychic prison, they like to call it in the literature, of this organization that has asserted itself over on top of our nations and has attempted to replace what was once simple, beautiful, and a coalition done among the groups and members of the family of the different Mi'kmaq nations, the 7 original families who came together and took care of business. This is your government, this is your land, this is your right. Your government makes decisions. They deserve to be respected and honored, and they need to be communicated to everybody that my government has laid down its wishes with respect to land, with respect to child protection, with respect to any kind of services. And finally, deliver the goods. And that one is an interesting statement. It also leads back to the original creating movement change, recognizing the goods you have. the things that you do well right now. I think that for me is the most exciting part in my own education, is to look at the evaluation of when our people deliver something to ourselves, it just works better. We know this.